Hello everyone and welcome to the process of filmmaking. This will be a series of videos that I will be producing in the foreseeable future about the whole process of filmmaking. We all have, at the very least, a very basic notion of how a film becomes a reality. You write a script, you shoot the film, you cut it, and it's good to go, right? Well, yes, but there's a lot more to it. I think you'll be surprised if we really dive into each step of the process, and that is exactly what we're going to do. When people tell me they want to become filmmakers, I usually don't encourage it very much. Why? Well, because it's extremely difficult to make a movie. Let me say that again. It's extremely difficult to make a movie, and it's a million times harder to make a good one. Film is the art of detail, and the result of overwhelming hard work. The most important thing a film needs to have is structure. Details can only exist and work if the structure is there. What good is a beautifully staged shot if there isn't structure and meaning behind it? Why do so many people dislike directors like Michael Bay and his Transformers franchise? It's because all he does is execute well thought out shots and little more. There is structure in the Transformers films, but it exists in a very basic form. It's good enough to please younger audiences and break box office records. It's not that Michael Bay can't do better, it's just that he doesn't need to. But I digress. Let's get back to structure. Where do we first need to have structure in a film? Where is structure most needed? You probably guessed it, right? The script. The script is one of the most important aspects of a film. The script is just like the concrete and cement holding a tall skyscraper together. It's the foundation on which everything else is built upon. So what steps should you take before you write a well-structured script? Well, you need a concept, a beat sheet, and a step outline. Let's go step by step. A concept is self-explanatory. It's basically the idea you have for a script. Oh, I want to make a movie about a boy meeting a friendly alien and helping him go back to his home. Or, I want to make a movie about an archaeologist searching for the Ark of the Covenant. Do you see where I'm getting at? That is the first step. What is the story you want to tell? What is the movie about? Who are your main characters? What is the main conflict? How does it end? What are the characters' story arcs? You need to constantly ask yourself these questions and always challenge your answers. Bulletproof every single detail of your story. This is the most creative part of the process. It's when you explore all options before committing to anything. After spending days, weeks, or even months taking notes and solidifying your ideas, you begin the more technical part of the writing process. There is a great book you should read called Save the Cat by Snyder. The book explains a very popular method of writing a script. It's known as Snyder's beat sheet. And what is Snyder's beat sheet? Snyder spent years studying successful films, trying to find patterns in the scripts to see if he could better understand what made them work. And he found those patterns. He was able to develop a method based on his research. His method breaks down the classic three-act structure into smaller, manageable sections, each with a very specific goal for your overall story. Of course, there are other methods to structure your screenplay, but Snyder's seems to be the most effective and popular. So let's learn a little more about Snyder's beat sheet. As I mentioned, the method breaks down the three-act structure. It breaks it down to 15 points, or better yet, 15 beats. Beats every script should, in theory, have. 1. Opening image. 2. Theme stated. 3. Setup. 4. Catalyst. 5. Debate. 6. Break into 2. 7. B-story. 8. Fun and games. 9. Midpoint. 10. Bad guys close in. 11. All is lost. 12. Dark night of the soul. 13. Break into 3. 14. Finale. 15. Final image. Some of these beats are self-explanatory, but some aren't. So let's go one by one and understand what all of this means. I'll also mention the page number range these beats should be appearing in your script. So, opening image. Page 1. The audience is first engaged with something compelling that sets the tone, and we begin to see how things are as they are right now. They will be clearly different at the end. 2. Theme stated. Page 5. Usually spoken to the main character in a snippet of dialogue. This gives a sense of the deeper issues that the story is about. Setup, or the setup section, between page 1 and page 10. We meet the main character who is living a compromised life in some way, while dealing with problems, and has something about them we can respect or like. We get a broad enough sense of their status quo life to feel we understand them and can begin to care about them. We see the world through their eyes, and will for the rest of the movie. meaning we mostly get what they're thinking, feeling, wanting, and trying to achieve from scene to scene. There are no big crises yet, but examples of life as it is. The first act presents the thesis of their current life. Catalyst, page 12. An event rocks the main character's world completely and sets in motion the central problem of the story. It's an external problem, not just internal, about thoughts and emotions, that demands to be dealt with now. It has clear and present stakes we can identify with and feel. Debate. The debate section between pages 12 and 25. The main character questions what has happened and tries to figure out what to do, and often seeks to avoid the true call to adventure. But they don't just talk. They take initial logical actions to try to fix things, which fail, narrowing their options. Breaking to 2, page 25. The main character enters an upside-down world, where they're completely out of their element. This is a new arena for them, where they're overmatched as they attempt to confront their story problem. They will stay in this antithesis to their normal life until breaking to 3. B story, page 30. A second story begins, which will run parallel to the A story, and interweave with it throughout the rest of the movie. The theme and the character's inner journey tends to be explored here. Often it's the love story or deals with some relationship issue. Like the A story, it's about a problem that builds and develops. It can't just be a relationship that's going well. Fun and games, between pages 30 and 55. The entertaining aspects of the story's premise are explored, in scenes that might make the movie trailer, highlighting the main character's unlikeliness for this upside-down world, which are fun to watch, but not fun for the main character, who is essentially in hell until the end of the story. Midpoint, page 55. The stakes are raised, the problem becomes more focused, more serious, more important and urgent. Bad guys close in, between pages 55 and 75. There may be no specific bad guys, but the problems should get worse and worse. The main character seems to be failing in their approach and/or is facing more and more seemingly impossible obstacles. Things escalate with their antagonistic forces, often with a punch-counterpunch feel. Their relationships with allies tend to break down too. Note the page count here. This section, along with fun and games, finale, setup, and debate, are made up of multiple scenes and represent big chunks of the movie. All is lost, page 75. The story seems to be over and the main character seems to have no hope now. The main problem of the story seems to have been answered in the negative. Everything they were trying has failed, and they have no other options. Things are worse than ever before. Dark Night of the Soul. Somewhere between page 75 and 85, the main character reels from the all is lost, and there's often a whiff of death. Breaking to 3, page 85. A new idea, a new hope, a new plan for solving the story problem emerges. Often the A story and the B story cross. The B story should also be unresolved and at its worst. Finale, between pages 85 and 110. A 5-part challenge akin to storming the castle to rescue the princess. The hero fails at first and is pressed to their absolute limit, forced to confront their own demons and possibly change their approach to life, before the story problem is finally resolved. Final image, page 110. Reflecting the new status quo now that the story is over. And there you go, Blake Snyder's 15 beats. When I first read and discussed these beats, I struggled to identify them in some movies. A very good script will expertly, and I quote, hide these beats. They tend to appear in a sophisticated and seamless manner. I have another fun thing to do with you right now. Let's try and identify these 15 beats in a popular film. I'll give you a hint. You're gonna need a bigger boat. That's right, Jaws. Let's break down Jaws and identify the structure. Okay, so let's start with the opening image. In a Predator POV, we prowl the ocean floor. The now iconic John Williams score sets an ominous tone. Setup. A relaxed beach bonfire party segues to a couple sneaking off to a skinny dip. But during the jaunt, the young woman goes missing. The next day, we meet Sheriff Brody and follow along as he is called to the site of the girl's disappearance. There, the girl's body is discovered, washed up on shore, and, though we don't see it, the reactions of the officers convey how gruesome the sight is. Back at the office, Brody fills out a report on the incident, typing in shark attack as the cause. Theme stated. As Brody heads off to work, his wife tells him to be careful, and he laughs it off, replying, "In this town, it seems danger can infiltrate even the sleepiest of small communities if we're not vigilant." Catalyst. Mayor Vaughn and a coterie of local businessmen pressured Brody, who is newly transplanted to Amity Island, to not close the beaches. Amity depends on tourism, and this is peak season. Call it greed, or simply best intentions gone awry, but this is the sin that welcomes the monster into their house. the bait. Brody's on high alert as he watches friends and neighbors swim and play in the water, unaware of the danger. Can they really get away with tempting fate? Apparently not, as the shark attacks again, this time in front of the whole town. A young boy is its victim. There is no ignoring the problem now. Break into two. Every area fisherman takes to the water to try to collect the bounty being offered for catching the shark. One team catches a tiger shark and everyone celebrates in relief. Just arrived shark researcher Hooper insists it's too small to be the killer, but the mayor refuses to let him cut it open to verify. It's clear Brody knows in his gut that Hooper is correct, but he's torn. He wants it to be the right shark so this nightmare will be over. At the end of this sequence, Mrs. Kittner, the mother of the young boy who was killed by the shark, slaps Brody, saying that if he had closed the beaches, her son would still be alive. This is the accusation and truth that compels Brody to take action himself instead of relying on the city fathers in Act 2. B story. Hooper visits Brody at home. He believes, and Brody quickly agrees, that they need to cut open the shark. These two will be a team from here until the final scene. Fun and games. Together, Brody and Hooper verify the tiger shark is not the killer, and then go out on the water to try to spot the real predator. Donning his scuba gear, Hooper descends into the water near the wreckage of a boat. He finds a tooth, and from this determines that the shark terrorizing Amity is a great white. Hooper theorizes that it's unlikely that the shark will move on as long as there is prey to be had in its feeding ground. Still, the mayor refuses to accept the truth. He's more concerned with not spooking the wave of tourists arriving for the 4th of July. Midpoint. The city officials have refused to shut down the beach, and, in fact, the mayor convinces a few locals to be the first into the water in order to show the skittish crowd that all is well. Sheriff Brody keeps watch from the shore, as if that would help, and the Coast Guard patrols the ocean. Almost as if it's aware of their precautions, the shark swims into an unguarded harbor and attacks again, managing to feast on one swimmer, and for a horrifying moment we think that it has also killed Brody's son. The stakes are raised as now his own family has been threatened. Brody's going to have to go out on the water, his greatest fear, and hunt this shark down. Bad guys close in. Brody hires shark hunter Quint, the quintessential half-man of this genre, the survivor who has run into the monster before or has prior knowledge of the evil, to help kill the shark, and as they prepare, we begin to wonder if Quint, their last best hope at this point, isn't completely Looney Tunes. His behavior doesn't inspire much faith that their mission will succeed. Still, they go out on his boat, and before long, the shark makes his presence known. But he's too smart to be killed too easily, swimming under the boat and foiling their initial attempts. All is lost. Brody gets his first up-close look at the shark and nearly goes into shock at the sight.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
It's a 25-footer, 3 tons of shark, and its size seems to stun even the more experienced Hooper and Quint. Dark Night of the Soul. About 83 minutes in, night is falling, and Brody, Quint, and Hooper, who have been at each other's throats since they got into the boat, sit inside the boat's cabin and drink. At first, Quint and Hooper compare scars in some funny, classic male bonding, but the tone shifts when Quint reveals his backstory and the reason for his shark obsession. He was on a submarine that got hit during World War II, and most of the men were killed by sharks before they could be rescued. It's a dramatization of what we fear will happen to our heroes. And then, improbably, the 3 guys start to sing, "Show Me the Way to Go Home." Break into 3, but in the middle of the song we hear pounding. It's the shark attacking the boat. The men scramble into action. In the morning, they're dealing with the aftermath of the attack when they realize that their current plan isn't working. Finale. The entire third act is the final battle, and it is relentless. A new plan involves Hooper going into the water in a cage, which is promptly attacked by the shark, and when the others pull the mangled cage back up, it appears they've lost Hooper. The shark then batters a hole in Quint's boat so it begins to sink under them. The shark comes onto the semi-submerged vessel, and the men try to fight it off, but Quint meets his horrific end. The climax, of course, is water-phobic Brody, finding his greatest nightmare coming alive around him. He must face the shark on his own on a sinking ship. Brody manages to kill the shark in an explosion caused by a cleverly planted compressed air tank.
Fire, you son of a...
Final image. As Brody clings to the wreckage of their boat, surveying the shark's bits floating around him, Hooper appears in his scuba gear. He survived after all. The 2 men paddle back to shore. And there you have it, Snyder's beat sheet on Jaws. If you were paying attention, you must have noticed that the first 3 beats had a little change. In this case, setup came before theme stated. That tends to happen a lot with these first initial beats, because if you think of it, opening image, theme stated, and setup are all tied in together on their way to the catalyst. There's a lot more to learn and explore when it comes to screenplays. There are other methods to approaching structure, but this is my favorite and the only one I really understand. Actually, writing a script isn't really a creative process. It's mostly a technical process that has to be filled with pragmatism. The creative part is done before you actually sit down and write. So what do you do after you have your beat sheet? You write the script? No, not yet, because it's still too vague. You have to break it all down even further in a process called step outline. So what is a step outline? A step outline is a detailed telling of the story. It briefly details every scene of the script and often has indications for dialogue and character interactions, contrasting with the generic 15 beats which just cover critical plot points. It's the final step before you sit down and write. Think of it as a script for your script. You basically break down all the scenes you intend to have in your script. I will leave in the description below a step outline example from Jaws, so you can examine it and understand how it ties in with the 15 beats mentioned earlier. Once you've finished writing your first draft, there are 2 final steps you need to take. You need a logline and a synopsis. A logline is a 1 or occasionally 2-sentence description that boils the script down to its essential dramatic narrative in as succinct a manner as possible. A synopsis is a brief generic outline of the script and a lot more detailed than a logline. Out of these 2 final steps, getting your logline just right is very hard and absolutely critical if you want to actually sell the script. Summarizing a story in 1 or 2 sentences in a catchy and exciting way is no easy task. Okay, so a quick recap of all these basic steps you should take before writing a script. So, you need a concept, you then need to make your beat sheet, and then you make your step outline, and then you can write your script. And after your script, you have to create your logline and your synopsis. And that's it, you're good to go. The very first step of making a film in a nutshell. Anyway, this is where I sign off in this first episode of the process of filmmaking. There is inevitably a lot more to be said about this subject, and this video will always be lacking. My main goal is to give basic notions, and with that in mind, I think I've said more than enough. I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that you can like, comment, and subscribe to my channel to stay updated. Also remember to check out Film Vibe's Facebook page and leave a like. The more the merrier. Stay tuned for future uploads. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.